There comes a moment in life when you realize that not everyone is entitled to your story, your reasoning, or your truth. We grow up believing that if we just explain ourselves enough, if we choose the right words, the right tone, the right timing, people will understand us. But the hard truth is that not everyone wants to understand. Some people aren't listening to hear, they're listening to argue, to manipulate or to twist your words into something they can use against you. When you find yourself constantly justifying your choices, your beliefs, or even your existence to someone who has already made up their mind about you, that's your sign to stop. You don't owe an explanation to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. We are conditioned to believe that if someone challenges us, it's our job to defend ourselves. But not all battles are worth fighting. If a person has already decided that your perspective is invalid, no amount of explaining will change their mind. It's like trying to teach a wolf to be gentle with sheep. It goes against their nature. Some people thrive on drama, on seeing you scramble to prove yourself. The more you explain, the more power you give them over your emotions. And the more power they have, the more they will demand. The cycle never ends until you choose to step out of it. Your peace is too expensive to waste on people who were never willing to hold space for you in the first place. Think about the times you've exhausted yourself trying to get someone to see your heart. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you could have said something differently. You feel frustrated, maybe even betrayed, when they take your words and twist them into something you never meant. But here's what you must understand. People who want to misunderstand you will always find a way. They will shift the narrative, deny your experience, and turn your vulnerability into ammunition. Your energy is precious, and every time you explain yourself to someone who refuses to see you, you are handing them a piece of your power. The truth is, your worth is not up for debate. You don't have to justify why you set boundaries, why you walked away, why you chose yourself. The people who genuinely care about you won't require an explanation. They will trust your heart even when they don't fully understand your decisions. And the people who demand justification, they often aren't looking for clarity. The more you explain, the more they will poke holes in your reasoning, trying to pull you into a spiral of self-doubt. But your job is not to convince them. Your job is to live in a way that honors your truth, whether they accept it or not. When you stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve it, something shifts inside you. You reclaim the energy you once wasted on over-explaining. You learn to trust your own voice instead of seeking validation from people who never had your best interest at heart. You begin to move differently, not from a place of defensiveness, but from a place of deep, unwavering confidence. You learn that some explanations are sacred, meant only for those who have earned the right to hear them. And just because someone demands an answer does not mean they are entitled to one. So let this be your reminder. You are not here to make everyone comfortable. You are not here to soften yourself so others can digest you more easily. You are here to stand in your truth, to honor your own journey, and to walk away from conversations that were never meant to serve you. The right people will never require you to prove yourself. They will simply choose they were never truly listening in the first place. There's a fine line between someone who genuinely seeks to understand you and someone who is simply looking for an opportunity to twist your words. We often feel the need to defend ourselves, to make sure we're heard, to explain our actions so others don't misjudge us. But here's the truth. If someone is determined to misunderstand you, no amount of explaining will ever be enough. This is where discernment comes in. Not every conversation is a battle worth fighting. Not every person questioning you is doing so from a place of good intent. Learning to recognize the difference between a sincere heart and a manipulative spirit is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. Manipulative people are not always obvious. They can disguise themselves as concerned friends, supportive family members, or even mentors offering advice. They ask questions not because they want to understand, but because they are gathering ammunition. They listen not to hear, but to find weak spots in your reasoning. You may find yourself explaining your decisions over and over, thinking that if you just find the right words, they will finally get it, but they won't, because their goal was never to understand. You were never speaking the same language to begin with. True understanding requires empathy, but manipulation thrives on control. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling drained, doubting yourself, replaying every word in your head? That's a sign you weren't in a healthy exchange. When someone truly wants to understand, the conversation feels like clarity, like mutual respect. Even if you don't see eye to eye, there is a sense of being heard. But when someone is trying to manipulate you, the conversation feels like quicksand. The more you explain, the deeper you sink. Their responses are filled with subtle jabs, contradictions, and emotional traps designed to keep you on the defensive. And once you are defensive, you've already lost control of the conversation. Defensiveness is a natural reaction when we feel misunderstood, but it rarely serves us in the way we think it will. It keeps us in a state of proving, explaining, justifying, giving the other person more control over our emotions than they deserve. The moment you start defending yourself to someone who is only interested in manipulation, you hand them the power to dictate how you feel. They now control the conversation, pushing you to explain more, to prove yourself more, all while knowing they have no intention of truly hearing you. The best response in these moments is not more explanation. It is discernment. It is knowing when to disengage, when to stop explaining, when to walk away. Discernment is the ability to sense the difference between a genuine question and a manipulative one. It's the awareness that not everyone who asks for your side of the story actually wants to hear it. Some people just want to keep you tangled in a web of doubt. When you begin to trust yourself, when you develop the confidence to say, I don't need to explain myself to you, you step into a different kind of power, a power that no manipulator can take from you. Instead of reacting with defensiveness, you respond with clarity. Instead of justifying, you stand firm. Instead of explaining, you recognize when silence is the loudest answer of all. So the next time you feel yourself being pulled into an endless loop of defending, ask yourself, is this person truly trying to understand me, or are they just trying to control the conversation? If the answer is the latter, you have nothing to prove. Your energy is too precious to be wasted on those who only seek to manipulate. Save your voice for those who actually want to hear you. Use discernment over defensiveness and watch how your peace transforms. Your energy is one of the most valuable things you have. It fuels your mind, your heart, your creativity, and your purpose. Yet too often we spend it on people who don't deserve it. People who are not interested in understanding us, only in draining us. We try to explain ourselves, justify our choices, and prove our worth to those who have already made up their minds. But here's the truth. No matter how much you give, some people will never see you clearly. And the more you try to force that clarity, the more exhausted you become. Protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's necessary for your well-being. Think about the moments when you have poured your heart into explaining yourself to someone who refused to listen. You crafted your words carefully, hoping they would finally see your perspective, only to be met with resistance, dismissiveness, or even manipulation. It's a cycle that leaves you feeling empty, questioning yourself, and wondering if you should have said more or said it differently. But the real issue was never in how you explained yourself. It was in who you were explaining yourself to. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you because it benefits them. They thrive on keeping you in a state of proving, justifying, and defending, because as long as you are doing that, they have power over you. Your energy is not limitless. Every moment spent engaging in unnecessary battles, explaining yourself to people who refuse to listen, or trying to win over those who have no intention of seeing you clearly is energy lost. It's energy that could have gone into your growth, your healing, your peace. Imagine if you redirected all that time and emotional labor into things that truly nourish you, your passions, your purpose, the relationships that uplift you. Imagine the freedom of no longer feeling the need to convince someone of your worth. That is what it means to treat your energy as sacred. It is choosing where to invest your time, your emotions, and your mental space wisely. We often think that if we just explain ourselves better, people will finally understand. But some people don't misunderstand you because they lack information. They misunderstand you because they are unwilling to see beyond their own perspective. No matter how clearly you speak, how much evidence you provide, or how vulnerable you are, they will twist your words, shift the narrative, and keep you running in circles. And the longer you stay in that exhausting exchange, the more of your power you give away. At some point, you have to stop and ask yourself, is this conversation leading to mutual understanding, or is it just depleting me? Walking away from these energy-draining interactions is not about weakness. It's about wisdom. It's about realizing that your energy is too valuable to be wasted on people who don't respect it. It's about recognizing that true connection doesn't require endless explanation. The people who truly care about you will not make you fight to be heard. They will not force you into emotional exhaustion just to prove yourself. They will hold space for you, listen with an open heart, and seek to understand without you having to beg for. Not everyone who appears kind is truly kind. Not everyone who offers advice has your best interests at heart. Some people disguise their toxicity under the mask of concern, pretending to care while secretly working against you. They come as friends, family members, even mentors, offering guidance, lending a listening ear, saying all the right words, but beneath that polished exterior lies an agenda. Their concern is not about supporting you, it's about controlling you. Their kindness is not rooted in love, it's rooted in manipulation. And if you aren't paying attention, you may find yourself trapped in a dynamic where you are constantly second-guessing yourself, wondering why their words don't match how they make you feel. Wolves in sheep's clothing are the most dangerous kind of people because they don't attack outright. They move subtly, planting seeds of doubt in your mind, making you question your own instincts. They will say things like, "I just want what's best for you," while undermining your decisions. They will pretend to support your dreams while filling your head with reasons why you shouldn't pursue them. They will claim to have your back, but will be the first to speak against you when you're not around. The danger lies in their deception, because when someone openly opposes you, it's easy to recognize them as a threat. But when someone cloaks their toxicity in false care, it's harder to see them for who they really are. The key to protecting yourself from these people is discernment. Pay attention to actions, not just words. A person's true nature is revealed not by what they say, but by what they do consistently over time. Do they celebrate your successes, or do they always find a way to make you feel small? Do they encourage you to trust yourself, or do they constantly make you doubt your own judgment? Do they stand by you when things get tough, or do they disappear when you need them most? Words can be rehearsed, but patterns don't lie. If someone's behavior repeatedly leaves you feeling drained, insecure, or confused, that is your sign. Don't ignore it. Wolves in sheep's clothing thrive on your self-doubt. They count on you giving them the benefit of the doubt over and over again. They play on your emotions, making you feel guilty for questioning them. They twist the truth, making it seem like you are the problem for even noticing their inconsistencies. They keep you in a constant state of needing their approval while ensuring you never quite feel good enough. But the moment you stop relying on their words and start trusting what you see, their illusion begins to crumble. And once you recognize their game, you can take your power back. Walking away from these people is not always easy, especially if they've been a significant part of your life. You might feel guilty, questioning whether you're overreacting, but listen, your intuition is not wrong. When someone's presence in your life leaves you feeling emotionally drained, more often than uplifted, that's all the clarity you need. It's not your job to expose them. It's not your job to convince others of who they really are. Your job is to protect your peace, trust what you see, and remove yourself from spaces that require you nor your intuition. So pay attention. Not all kindness is real. Not all advice is given with good intentions. And not everyone who stands beside you is truly on your side. Wolves in sheep's clothing will always exist, but they only have power over you if you ignore the signs. Trust yourself. When the words don't match the actions, believe the actions. When something feels off, believe your gut. Your energy is sacred. Don't waste it on those who pretend to care while secretly working against you. There comes a point in life when you have to decide that your worth is not a negotiation. It is not something that needs to be explained, justified, or proven to anyone. You are not a courtroom argument. You are not a product that needs to be sold to the highest bidder. And yet, too many of us find ourselves in relationships, friendships, and environments where we feel like we have to prove why we deserve respect, love, or even basic kindness. We exhaust ourselves trying to meet impossible expectations, bending and reshaping who we are just to gain approval from people who will never truly see us. But here's the truth. If someone constantly makes you feel like you have to prove yourself, that is your sign to walk away. The need to prove yourself is a trap. It keeps you in a constant state of seeking validation, convincing others of your value, and working tirelessly to earn what should be freely given. You start measuring your worth based on how others perceive you, rather than standing firm in the truth of who you are. And the more you chase that approval, the more distant it becomes. People who make you feel like you have to prove yourself will never be satisfied because it was never about you in the first place. It was about control. The moment you meet one expectation, they will raise the bar. The moment you think you've earned their respect, they will shift the goalposts. It's a game designed to keep you small, insecure, and dependent on their value. Think about how much energy you've spent trying to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. How many times have you justified your decisions to someone who had already decided you were wrong? How many times have you bent over backward to prove your worth to someone who never truly valued you? That cycle is exhausting, and worse, it takes away from the energy you could be pouring into things that actually nourish you, your growth, your peace, your purpose. The people who truly see your worth won't require an essay, a debate, or a performance. They will recognize it simply because it exists. Walking away from spaces that demand you to prove yourself is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. It means you have chosen to prioritize your self-respect over external approval. It means you have decided that your peace is worth more than someone's temporary validation. It means you refuse to shrink yourself just to fit into a space that was never meant for you. And yes, walking away can be hard. It might feel like giving up. It might feel like you're being misunderstood. But what's harder is staying in a space that slowly eats away at your self-worth, a space where you are constantly fighting to be seen and valued. The truth is, you were never meant to be in relationships, romantic, platonic, professional, where you feel like you have to audition for love, respect, or belonging. Healthy relationships don't make you feel like you're on trial. The right people won't make you question whether or not you are enough. They will celebrate who you are without requiring you to prove why you deserve their presence. You do not need to convince anyone of your value. You do not need to explain why you deserve kindness. You do not need to fight for a seat at a table that does not respect you. So let this be your reminder. You are already enough. You are already worthy. And anyone who makes you feel like you have to prove that to them does not deserve a front row seat in your life. Walking away is not a loss. It is a declaration that you refuse to beg for what should be freely given. Stand firm in your worth and trust that the right people will see it without you having to say a word. There is power in silence. In a world that constantly demands explanations, justifications, and responses, choosing to say nothing can be the boldest statement of all. We often feel pressure to defend ourselves when we are misunderstood, attacked, or questioned. We want to set the record straight, to make people see our side, to prove our integrity. But here's the truth. Some battles are not worth fighting. Some people do not deserve your words. And sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Silence unsettles people who thrive on conflict. When someone is looking for a reaction, they want you to engage. They want you to explain, to argue, to defend yourself, because as long as you do, they have control over your emotions. The moment you react, they win. But when you choose silence, you take that power back. You send a clear message. I do not owe you my energy. I do not need your validation. I refuse to participate in this performance. And that is a power that cannot be manipulated. Think about the times when you have defended yourself endlessly, only to realize that no matter what you said, the other person wasn't really listening. You replay the conversation in your head, thinking of better ways you could have explained yourself, but deep down, you know that even the most perfect response wouldn't have changed their mind. That's because some people don't seek understanding. They seek control. They don't want to hear your truth. They want to exhaust you, keep you engaged, and drain your energy. The moment you recognize this, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of over-explaining. Silence is a boundary. It says, I will not allow you to drag me into unnecessary battles. I will not waste my energy trying to prove myself to someone who is determined to misunderstand me. It is a declaration of self-respect. And it is not weakness, it is wisdom. Because not every argument needs a rebuttal. Not every insult deserves a response. There is something incredibly powerful about refusing to give someone the reaction they are looking for. This doesn't mean silence should be used as avoidance or suppression. It doesn't mean you shouldn't speak up when necessary, but it does mean that you should choose your battles wisely. Some people are not arguing in good faith. Some accusations are not worth dignifying with a response. Some situations are better handled by stepping back and allowing the noise to fade on its own. Silence forces people to sit with their own words, their own actions, and their own conscience. It deprives manipulators of the fuel they need to keep going. So the next time you feel the urge to defend yourself against someone who has already decided who you are, pause, ask yourself, will this conversation lead to resolution, or am I just wasting my energy? If it's the latter, let silence do the talking, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. There is an exhausting weight that comes with trying to be liked by everyone. It keeps you constantly adjusting, bending, and reshaping yourself to fit the expectations of others. You say yes when you want to say no. You dim your light to make others comfortable. You silence your truth out of fear of judgment. And the worst part, even after all that effort, there will still be people who don't like you. The need to be liked is a never-ending chase, a game where the rules are always changing, but the real danger isn't in being disliked. It's in betraying yourself in an attempt to gain the approval of people who were never meant to walk with you in the first place. People-pleasing is not kindness, it is self-abandonment. When you constantly put others' comfort above your own truth, you slowly erase yourself. You become whatever people need you to be in that moment, losing sight of who you really are. And for what? Temporary acceptance? Conditional approval? A false sense of belonging that disappears the moment you stop catering to them? The cost of people-pleasing is too high. It takes away your authenticity, your boundaries, and your peace. And no amount of external validation will ever fill the emptiness that comes from betraying yourself. Letting go of the need to be liked is not about being cold or uncaring. It's about choosing peace over exhaustion. It's about realizing that your self-worth is not tied to how many people approve of you. It's about standing firm in who you are, even when it makes others uncomfortable. True confidence comes from knowing that you do not need external validation to be enough. The right people, your people, will love you for who you truly are, not for how well you perform for them. And the people who demand that you change, who only support you when you fit their mold, they were never meant to have access to your heart in the first place. When you stop seeking approval from the wrong people, you make room for something better: authenticity. You begin to trust yourself more, to make choices that align with your truth instead of someone else's expectations. You start setting boundaries without guilt, walking away from relationships that drain you, and standing firm in your values without needing outside validation. And that is where true freedom begins. Not in being liked, but in being real. Not in pleasing others, but in honoring yourself. So, release the weight of needing to be liked. It is not your job to convince anyone of your worth. The people who are meant for you will see you, appreciate you, and love you without conditions. And those who don't, let them go. Choose peace over people pleasing. Choose yourself over the approval of those who were never truly for you. Because at the end of the day, your peace is worth more than their acceptance. There is a natural tension between light and darkness, a push and pull that has existed for as long as time itself. Wherever there is light, darkness will try to creep in, casting shadows and seeking to dull the brilliance. This can show up in many forms: the criticism of others, the doubts planted in your mind, or the challenges that seem to rise just as you begin to shine. But here's the truth. The very existence of darkness is evidence of your light. The more brightly you shine, the more the darkness will push against you, trying to dim what you bring into the world. But your job is not to shrink in the face of darkness. Your job is to stand firm in your light, to shine even brighter, no matter how fierce the opposition may seem. When you begin to embrace your light fully, you will inevitably encounter resistance. Some people will not understand your journey. Some will try to make you doubt yourself, questioning your choices, your voice, or your purpose. This is not a reflection of you, but a reflection of their inability to see the truth of who you are, and that's okay. It's not your job to convince everyone around you to see your worth. It is your job to keep shining, regardless of the shadows that try to obscure your path. There is power in persistence. The light that you carry is meant to illuminate not only your own life, but the lives of others as well. The more you stand firm, the more the darkness will retreat. However, standing firm in your light doesn't mean forcing your brilliance on others or seeking validation from the outside world. It means being unapologetic about who you are and the gifts you bring. It means trusting in the truth that you are enough exactly as you are, and that your light is worthy of being seen. The world doesn't need another person who hides their light out of fear or self-doubt. It needs you in all your brilliance showing up fully as yourself. By doing this, you not only create space for your own growth, but also pave the way for others to do the same. Your light has the power to inspire, to heal, and to guide, but only if you allow it to shine without fear or reservation. Darkness will always try to challenge light, but light will always have the final word. It is relentless, it is transformative, and it is impossible to contain. So the next time you feel the pull to shrink, to hide, or to dim your brilliance in the face of challenges, remember this. You are here to shine. You are here to stand firm in the truth of who you are. And no matter how strong the darkness may seem, your light will always have the power to break through. So stand tall, stand firm, and let your light shine.